Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. We are going to cover chapter 16. The topic is cafeteria and cycle menus in menu design and engineering. These are the learning objectives. First, we are going to see we are going to explain how to use various time frames for cycle menus, and then explain how cycle menus fit into different types of food service, and then describe the differences in various cafeteria designs. There are 4 types of designs basically, and then explain the differences between the 2 categories of cafeterias. Explain the principles of writing cafeteria menus and describe the concepts for food arrangement in a cafeteria line. Concepts for food arrangement refers to the garnishment and the way to make it attractive and appealing, and while at the same time ensuring a clean environment. These are the lecture outlines. The length of each of the cycle menus, the types of cycle menus, restaurant use of cycle menus, and then there are also profit and non-profit food service that is using cycle menus, and in terms of popularity and selection of certain dishes in cycle menus, and how variety plays an important role in cycle menus. And then the menu planning procedures, cafeterias, and cafeteria menus. Cycle menus. Commercial restaurants use cycle menus for daily specials to augment greater in quantity. For daily specials to augment regular printed menu. In other words, commercial restaurants basically use cycle menus to offer much bigger quantity of foods to the customers, which includes their regular printed menu. They already have their own regular printed menu, but other than that, they are offering a type of cycle menus that has already been served at the buffet line in much larger quantity for the customers to have much more choices. So the major users of cycle menus would be cafeterias. Cafeterias can be found in many government institution, in private institution, in large private institution, and then cafeterias is also known is available in both commercial and non-profit food service operations. Cycle menus are written for a specific period of time and are then repeated until a new cycle is written. The length of time varies depending on nature and clientele of operation. A hospital food service, for an example, would have a 1 or 2 week cycle menu. A college food service, on the other hand, is going to have a 4 or 5 week cycle. So if we see over here, we can basically understand that the lesser the cycle is, the more similar the food dishes is going to be. As an example, the hospital possess a 1 or 2 week cycle menu. So the first week and then the third week of the cycle menu is going to be the same, and then the second week and the fourth week is going to have the same menu as well. While the 4 or 5 week cycle, meaning that as an example, we take 4 week cycle. 4 week cycle meaning the first week of January cycle menu is only going to be offered again on February, the first week of February, after a 4 week cycle. So meaning there are much more variety in college food service rather than in hospital food service. And then in seasonal cycle, seasonal goods and themes based on food availability. Nowadays seasonal goods are not very relevant or in context anymore, because many seasonal goods are available throughout the year in many places. So even if you're looking for a durian in Malaysia throughout the year, yes, you will find durian, and no problem at all, because they are durian, whether they are going to import them from Thailand, or whether it is being planted over here in Malaysia throughout the years. And then the only difference that we can say in terms of seasonal cycle is that whether it is expensive or it is not, based on food availability. We most of the time nowadays we cannot say that it is a seasonal goods and theme, but we can still say that it is based on food availability, because some ingredients and some goods are not available on a very good pricing when it is off season. And then we have commercial cafeterias. Commercial cafeterias basically is going to have a 2 to 3 week cycle, meaning the second week of January, as an example, the second week of January the menu of second week of January is going to be repeated again on the fourth week of January as well. So we are going to see the menu 2 times in a month. There are 4 types of cycle menus. The first one would be typical cycle menu. It is a complete menu. Complete means it has appetizer, soup, main course, and desserts. So a complete menus are repeated on a regular basis with no variation in day. So as an example, the menu that is being offered on Sunday is only going to be repeated on Sunday the next week. So there's no variation in day. While the second one is the typical break cycle menu. It is similar to typical cycle menu, but the day on which it is offered changes. As an example, on January, the first week of January, the food is the listing of the menu is being offered on the first week of January on Sunday. But the second week, the same menu is not going to be repeated on Sunday as well. Instead, it is going to be repeated on Monday. So that is what we refer as typical break cycle menu. And then the third one, we have random cycle menu. Complete menus are consisting of appetizer, soup, main course, desserts, and sometimes they also have starters. Complete menus are created and assigned a letter, a number code, a schedule of popular items and product availability. Why they assign a letter or number code? So that they are able to identify which item is popular and the product or the ingredients are available at the time of serving. So when they are able to identify these 2 characteristics, so they are able to schedule whether the product can be served much more frequently or not. So that is random cycle menu. And then we have split cycle menu. Individual items are assigned popularity factors. Higher popularity items are offered more frequently. This is much more clear cut, because split cycle menu, basically they are assigned popularity factors, and the much more popular the item is, it is going to be offered much more frequently. Cycle menu in terms of restaurant use, they are used in 2 ways. The first one would be in operational plan for daily specials sold on clip-ons and chalkboard. Basically on a regular basis for daily specials. So basically the cycle menu is being used based on what kind of product available on that particular day. So as an example, the ingredient that is available on that day would be fish and poultry. So these 2 would be made into menu items, and they are going to be offered as a daily specials, and it's going to be written on clip-ons and chalkboards. The consideration would be price, balance, and use of leftover. So the leftover of poultry, the leftover of fish, it can be used. It can be used to create or to recreate a new menu that can be considered as a daily specials. That is the first use of restaurant use. The second one is the production list. Price is important because customer perceive daily special item has greater value than regular menus. We all when we look at the marketing point of view, when we look at any promotional items or anything that says daily specials, basically we have the mindset that these items have greater value. The second one is what we chooses items that reinforce these perceptions. Specials with lower ingredient cost so that people buy and then they feel that they are getting values out of it. And then balance in cooking methods, color and texture. Chef choice, test market new item or to use leftover. And restaurant develop 1 week cycle for specials. So the second one would be in order to make certain ingredients to be recycled, to be reused, and then to produce a product or an item that shows that it has a greater value than the regular menus. So the cycle menu is being used for a restaurant point of view in two ways. One is for daily specials, and then the second one, daily specials with values. In other words, whether it has a much better pricing, much better taste or presentations, or even portion size. And then continuing from the second factor, it gives advance notice to regular customers, takes away elements of variety, but develops a restaurant's reputation for certain products. In other words, when we are producing daily specials using a cycle menu, we already shows the kind of items that we are offering for sales. So it takes away any elements of variety, so it shows to the customers that these are the things that we are offering. But at the same time, it develops a restaurant's reputation for certain products if the product is good. And then it developed a seasonal cyclic menus to match seasonal availability of foods. We don't say it as a seasonal availability, but we are saying it as the pricing availability. If the price of the food cost is right at the time, so then we are able to offer the food item. And then inject variety on printed menu by using of dojo. Dojo means today or of the day, a vegetable dojo. Set up cycle menu so that purchasing and production covered and the service personnel know exactly what is to be served every single day. So when we develop cycle menu is considered as a fixed menu. So when we have a cycle menu or a fixed menu, the purchasing are able to control the cost, and then the production can develop their standardized recipe, and then the service personnel know exactly what is to be served every single day because the listing of the menu is there. So they are able to market the menu accordingly. But in case we don't play with the varieties, in terms of the balance, the texture, the taste, the color. If we don't play with these kind of factors of cycle menu, so that is what we refer as complacency tends to put the menu in a rut, because cycle menu can only go so far. Maybe after 1 or 2 months, we need to revamp the cycle menu, because if we don't do that, the menu will look the same, especially for the customer. The loyal customer will perceive that these are not daily specials. These are considered as the same menu. And then there are also non-profit food service. Non-profit food service once is also known as institutional food service. There is a misnomer, something which is not true, when people say that captive audience feeding is the institutional food service is also known as captive audience feeding, which is not, because patrons actually have the choice to either eat in or out. Previously, universities is called as captive audience feeding, but then that is not the case, because students they have the choice whether they want to eat in their mess. Mess means the canteen. So whether they want to eat at their own mess, in their dining room, in their dining canteens, or they have the choice to eat outside. But captive audience feeding is relevant for patrons that are not able to go out. For example, prisons. For example, hospitals. Selection and popularity. Fewer the selections offered in each category, the more popular they must be. Because if we are not offering many selections, we must ensure that the items that we are offering, they should be popular, or in other words, they are likable by our guests. Additional selections give choice, outweigh problems, but then we can give additional selections, but then if the customers still are not liking it, it will only increase our food cost. Larger food service, in many larger food service, there are many more choices made available. But in terms of small operations, 2 entrees choices, meaning 2 main courses, at least one item is popular and the other one is not, or no choice at all, which is not relevant, because we must always give at least one, so one is already considered a choice. In terms of variety of cycle menu, an important factor, variety achieved by avoiding repetition of items within cycle and not repeating the cycle as well. So variety achieved by avoiding repetition of item. As an example, on Sunday we are offering a typical cycle menu. On Sunday we are offering Hungarian goulash. As an example, we are offering Hungarian goulash, and then on the second cycle, on Monday, we are also offering Hungarian goulash. The first week we are offering Hungarian goulash, and then the second week we are also offering Hungarian goulash. So we are repeating the items, although the weeks are different. So that is not a very good idea, because people or the guests will perceive that as repetitive, and they will basically say that the menu are the same. So in terms of variety, the factors that needs to be taken into consideration would be cooking methods, temperature, consistency, color, texture. These are the things that needs to be taken into consideration. So when we are planning a cycle menu, as an example, 7 days of the week, a cross top, and 3 meals on left side. So the steps involved is plan main, dinner, entree by compiling a list and grouping them by category and texture. Category means we are categorizing them into appetizer, soup, main course, and desserts. And then grouping them by texture. So the texture would be, there are certain food item that is basically solid. There are also certain food that is semi-solid. Semi-solid meaning they have some liquid and then they have some solid items. And then there are certain item that is liquid totally. And then there are certain item that is soggy or not very solid, but it is soggy in texture. Decide on frequency of popular and less popular items. So once the decision is there, which one is popular and which one is not, list the popular entree item first. Complete step 1 and 2 for lunch and breakfast, and then add the second and third entrees, which is the less popular list. And then complement the main entrees. How we complement them? Plan the vegetables, starches, and soup for lunch and dinner. Put it together with the entrees that we have put in the first place. And then plan desserts with variety as for salad category. Plan the salads, offer variety in types, color, and consistency. Make sure it looks very colorful and look very fresh. That is the most important aspect for salads. And then list breads, condiments, and beverages. And then the 9 listing, list hot and cold cereals, breakfast, fruits, and juices. Review the menu for color, frequency, texture, and consistency. Or in other words, the 10 listing, meaning that you have to imagine the cycle menu on the table all together. And then look in terms of color, the frequency, whether it's the ingredients that is being used is not redundant. And then the texture should be many kinds, and consistency should be in varieties as well. And then the cafeterias. There are 2 categories of cafeterias. They are commercial for-profit restaurants, and then they are also not-for-profit in-house operations. The first one, commercial for-profit restaurants. Basically, they have the strongest customer base. They are owned by large chains, popular with senior citizens, because senior citizens feel very comfortable eating foods in a cafeteria menu, so they don't want to be disturbed, and then they don't want to do any extra services. So senior citizens are very comfortable with cafeteria types of services. Wide variety of freshly prepared food with emphasis on nutritional offerings. Basically, cafeteria needs to take these into considerations, because their main customer would be senior citizens or working adults. Not-for-profit in-house operations. Facilities run their own operations. Majority is contracted out, and captive audience feeding is self-defeating, except, like I mentioned earlier, is self-defeating except for correctional facilities, hospitals, and some nursing homes. Nursing homes refers to rumah orang tua. And then highly competitive business. The menu is of paramount importance. Why we call it as highly competitive business? Because the menu or the demand of the menu is not being sought by the guests, but instead it is being sought by the policy makers. So when the policy makers demand the menu should be healthy, should be nutritious, should be in good portion, should be attractive. So the caterer that is taking the contract to deal with the in-house operations, they have to comply with the requirements. Cafeterias is designed basically, there are certain variation as well, but cafeterias basically are designed in 4 common types. They are straight line, bypass line, sawtooth, and free flow. These are the cafeteria styles of service. The first one, straight line, the slowest moving, speed at which cash is taken, and movement of line. Most common design in commercial cafeterias takes up less amount of square footage. More seats in dining room. Straight line meaning you have to wait in line and take the food in line, in straight line. Bypass line, variation of straight line. Second section indented, making easier for customers to jump line. Straight line, you have to take the appetizer, you have to go through the section of appetizer, soup, main course, and desserts. You have to wait in line. Although you are not into desserts, you still have to wait. So you have to wait for people in front to take their desserts, and then only you can move on to the payment counter. These are the negative parts of a straight line. You have to wait nonetheless, whether you are taking the desserts, whether you're taking the main course, whether you're going for the beverages only, but you have to wait for the person in front to finish with their taking up food and payment, and only then you can move on and you can do your payment. That is the negative part for straight line. But then for bypass line, in order to solve that particular problem, we have a bypass line. A bypass line means second section is indented, making easier for customers to jump line, just in case you are only going for the drinks. So you are not going for the appetizers, for the soups, for the main course, and for the dessert. So you can just go for the beverages, and then you can just immediately go to the payment counter. So that is what we refer as a bypass line. Sorted, customers can go directly to area of their choosing, each section being set diagonal to previous section. Each has its own category or combined categories, variation of straight line. So these are the variation of straight line. It's just that it makes people much more comfortable. Like I mentioned earlier, people just want to go for the beverages, or they just want to go for the desserts. So they can go immediately to that particular counter, pick up the food or the beverages, and then they can just go immediately to the payment counter. That is sawtooth. So sawtooth is very user friendly, and it is a variation of straight line. And then in terms of free flow system, the four types of cafeteria style. Patrons go directly to area or areas serving those items. Layouts, as an example, the layouts will be shopping center concept, a U shape or a scattered around. They don't have any particular arrangement. So a free flow system, we can go to any stalls, to any areas of the food. As an example, we can go to the appetizer area, we can go to the main course area. There are no particular flow over there, and then we can just pick up the food, and then we can go directly to the payment counter to do our payment. So this is common in employee cafeterias, because employee cafeterias, people are taking breaks and people want to be very quick about their lunch. People want to be very quick about their breakfast. Offers quicker service with minimum waiting time. The demographics of Cycle menu. This is for non-profit for profit. Menu writer must ascertain needs of group in institution. For as an example, it is a correctional facilities. So they need a very good nutrition in terms of correctional facilities, because they are recuperating. They are trying to get better. Local unit manager is in tune with client base and fit menus to demographic diversity of that particular group. So as a manager of cafeteria, of any cafeterias, whether it is correctional, for profit or not for profit, the manager should be in tune with the client base. They should know what the client really wants. Commercial cafeterias, freestanding or located in shopping mall. It is popular because of no tipping and selecting few items from wide choice. Commercial cafeterias, one of the good things about commercial cafeterias, it is not compulsory for you to offer tips. Tipping is not very popular in Malaysia, but you will have the experience being a waiter or waitresses. Maybe not now. Once you have the experience, and then you're serving a Caucasians, and then you will see that Caucasians have the tendency to give you tips, because it is in their culture, but it is not in ours. So there's nothing wrong with that. And then small portions with low prices charged for quality, nutritious food. Basically, all cafeterias is offering that kind of characteristic. The food is in small portions with low prices, and it is charged for quality and nutritious food. Because why all cafeterias have the same objective of serving quality and nutritious food? Because most of them, like I mentioned very earlier in the chapters, these are correctional facilities, nursing homes, government organization, government buildings. So as a result, the policymaker, they require any cafeteria serving in their building to provide quality and nutritious food. Cafeteria menus, customer is making the selection based on actually viewing food rather than reading printed menu. This is the main characteristic of cafeteria, because the food is already being shown to the customer. So food merchandising of the cafeteria line takes the place of descriptive terminology. So there is very, very minimum descriptive terminology in cafeteria, because the food is being shown already. So when the food is shown, we call it as food merchandising. So in order to make food merchandising successful, principles of variety, there should be many types of color, texture, and cooking methods to show the varieties. And then the line must look appealing in terms of the presentation. And then they must have excellent holding qualities. Foods produced in larger batches, so hot food should be served hot, cold food should be served cold. Don't serve hot foods in a cold manner, so that is not a good holding qualities. Poor to moderate holding qualities basically refers to small batches of cooking. But for excellent holding qualities, for larger batches is much more important. Plating a final product with one motion. So this shows that the portioning is correct and precise. Fast lines mean high profits. Yes, of course, because we don't want our customers to be waiting for too long. And when the customers are waiting for too long, there will be customers that is going to just put the food aside and then move on to other restaurants or other cafeterias available in the building. And most successful cafeteria chains prefer foods cooked fresh from raw ingredients to using convenient foods. These are the characteristics of successful cafeteria. They prefer to cook food from scratch. Once menu is written, menu writer must next diagram serving line, which we have discussed earlier, using 4 types of styles. Ensures incorporation of color, texture, cooking methods, and variety into menu executed properly. So this characteristic needs to be executed properly, because if it is not, the idea, the objective of having many colors, textures, and cooking methods will fail miserably. And once it fails, the food will not look very attractive anymore. Some cases, actual menu is printed for potential guests to review in advance while they are waiting in line. So while they are waiting in line, they cannot see the food in front. So in order to solve that particular problem, there are certain caterer for cafeterias. They are going to print the menu and put it along the line so that the customer can actually view and make decisions while waiting for the line to move on. Food arrangement of cafeteria, the number 1 until number 8. Appetizers, many do not serve them, but if the cafeteria do serve them, it should be on the first or the front of the cafeteria line. That is the first one that we are going to encounter. And then the second one will be salads, and then we have entrees or main courses in order of solids, semi-solids, and extenders.